All right, y'all. Look, the Ravens have a new offensive coordinator, and weirdly enough, I didn't really know how to feel at first. But as I've thought about it, given it some thought, gotten a little bit more excited about it, I feel like that's kind of the overall thought that I have had is excitement. There's something about this move that really makes me feel like I think this might be a good one. I think Jesse Minter might just be cooking. Let's talk. What's up, y'all? Welcome into the Be More Show. Back once again. Look, we gonna talk about yesterday. We gonna talk about Bruno. We're not. We gonna talk. We gonna talk. Listen, we're not gonna talk about the craziness of yesterday. But anybody who hung out with me yesterday and saw me struggle for 10 straight minutes, I appreciate y'all because y'all still was here trying to help me out. But look, I gotta let y'all know. I'm liking this move from Jesse Minter. I think Jesse Minter is really cooking with this staff. I think I'm just gonna put it to y'all like this. Jesse Minter is giving us exactly what we asked for, right? Jesse Minter really is giving us exactly what we asked for. We wanted change, right? We wanted new. We wanted fresh faces. We wanted young faces. We wanted faces that never had been into the building before, right? We still want faces you know. We want faces you trust. But at the same time, we want faces that's going to change the trajectory of this team. We want faces that's going to put this team over the hump. Shout out to A6 Ghost hanging out with Brandon. Shout out to you as always, hanging out with me. But look, y'all. I like this move. Yesterday was yesterday. Today is today. We talking, okay? We talking real quick. Real quick, we going to talk. I like this move. All right. Like I said, at first, I was kind of like, I don't really know this guy. But I think sometimes that's a good thing, right? I think sometimes that's a good thing. I think sometimes it's a good thing that you don't. I mean, here's the thing: we can't keep up with everybody. We can't keep up with every quarterback's coach and every offensive passing game coordinator. But here's the thing: a lot of people were looking for Kyle Shanahan tree, Sean McVay tree. But listen, we might have the Ben Johnson, Sean Payton tree right here, which is still good, still really good. It's interesting because the idea of bringing in Jesse Minter, right, was that he was going, and I said this before, and I'm going to stick to it, he was going to immediately fix the defense. So now you go over to the offensive side of the ball. And it's very, very interesting, right? The offensive side of the ball makes a lot of sense now, right? The offensive side of the ball is like, it's not that the offensive side of the ball has necessarily been a problem, right? I think there's been an issue with finishing. I think there's been an issue with third down efficiency, offensive line. That's another thing we're gonna talk about real quick right now as well. But I like this move. I like the idea that not only is Declan Doyle young, but that also gives you a little bit of longevity. But let me shout out to the live chat real quick, and then we'll jump right into it. Like I said, Brandon hanging out with me as always. Priya Ju Marie, Christopher, what's up? My name's DJ. Nice to see you. What is my name? My name is DJ. What's up, Marie? How you doing? I think I said hey to you earlier. Shout out to you. I'm gonna go back to you because you got a football question, so I'll go back to you here in a minute. That's funny. Look, listen, let's talk. Okay, so real quick, I'm gonna answer this and then I'm gonna get back on topic. The only reason the Patriots going to the Super Bowl is because Bo Nix. Look, I agree. I'm not even going. I'm not. Going into that game, I felt like Denver. Denver was the better team. And I mean, honestly, if we could have got a couple more plays from Jared Stidham, you never know. You never know what we would have got. All right, but listen, let's talk. All right, let's talk. Look, Declan Doyle, the new offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. Also want to mention the new offensive line coach for the Baltimore Ravens and run game coordinator, Dwayne Ledford from the Atlanta Falcons. I want to mention this real quick. I like the idea of this guy right here. All right. I like the idea of Dwayne Ledford because Atlanta in sacks given up, top of the league. In run game, top of the league. So his expertise, easy money. Look, easy money. Shout out to Elon to be hanging out as well. I appreciate you. I know y'all are going live very soon as well, so go check them out. If you hang out with me the whole time, that's fine. But also go check out Yolanda B and Rogue Pod over there. I know they're going live here in a little bit as well. But real quick, we're gonna have this conversation, and I'm gonna get up out of here so y'all can go hang out with them as well. But look, I love it. I love both of these moves. Because Declan Doyle, I love it because this is a promotional lateral move, right? And I don't want to say too much, but this is a promotional lateral move. It's not, he was an offensive coordinator elsewhere for the Chicago Bears in Ben Johnson's system, in a system that really, we talking about a night and day system. We talking about from what we saw, the potential that we possibly saw from Caleb Williams in that offense year, in the year previous and Caleb's rookie year, we saw it completely come to fruition under Ben Johnson and under Declan Doyle. Now, why does he make because a lot of times, you're like, well, Clint Kubiak's not going to leave Seattle to become an offensive coordinator elsewhere unless he's just not calling plays. Well, that's the exact reason why Declan Doyle is probably making this move. He wants to call plays because obviously everybody wants to be a head coach in this league. We've seen it with Todd Monken, right? We've seen it, even, you go to Eric Bieniemy. This is kind of the comparison that I make with these two. Eric Bieniemy, right? Eric Bieniemy, he went elsewhere because he didn't have as much of a hand in the offense as he maybe did with the film, maybe did with making sure that Patrick Mahomes became what Patrick Mahomes ended up becoming, right? Eric Bieniemy was a big part of that. So, I think it's a very similar situation. Declan Doyle, very young, 29 years old, I think, which is the same age as Lamar Jackson, which is crazy. So there's probably a little bit of relatability there too. But I like this move because I think it creates longevity for what the Ravens want. Jesse Mitchell said something interesting, right? He said something interesting. He said, I want to win championships, right? He said, I want to win championships. Not just one. He said plural. I want to win championships. And I love the way he put that because, and with the moves that he's making, obviously he wants to be here for a long time. EDC said, hey, I want him to be here for 18, 19, 20 years. I'm probably going to be gone by the time he gets up out of here. That's what I want, right? And it's obvious Jesse Minter wants to put his stamp on the league as well. And I like this because it's we always talk about the young offensive minds, and Declan Doyle has the potential to be the future of this kind of young offensive mind, group of coaches that's coming up. Like, so the generation after the Sean McVays, the generation after the Kyle Shanahans, right? The 2 generations, maybe you could say, after like the Andy Reeds, if you want to talk about age. But I like this. I love this move. I love this move for like I said, I love the fact that my guy Declan Doyle is getting a promotion, right? I like that he wants to call plays. That shows, that he wants to grow, but also he's been learning under Ben Johnson, and the way Ben Johnson, kind of calls his plays and the way he runs his offense. We kind of saw it. I wouldn't be surprised. I know there's kind of a rumor out there. There's kind of rumors out there about Rashad Bateman and what's going to happen with him. But if Bateman does stick around, I wouldn't be surprised if Bateman has another breakout year because of this style of offense, right? Because of this style of offense. I'm excited for Doyle's kind of introductory press conference because I think we'll be able to hear a little bit more about what he wants to do. Similar to what Jesse Minter said, obviously he said some things like, I want to call the plays, kind of philosophies that he has when it comes to the defensive side of the football. I want to hear what Doyle says because, that gave me a good insight into Todd Monken. Like watching Todd Monken call plays, in Cleveland and in Georgia, you saw that Todd Monken was like, hey, I'm going to get everybody involved, right? You ain't going to never necessarily know who's going to beat you, but at the end of the day, we're going to have an excellent offense. And we saw that. We saw Rashad Bateman, play very, very well. He was very close to 1,000-yard season in year 1 of Todd Monken. We saw Isaiah Likely really come to age under Todd Monken. We saw Mark Andrews come back after injury and play well under Todd Monken. We saw some other running backs show up under Todd Monken as well. When you talk about, Keaton Mitchell, even Justice Hill. year one for Todd Monken was Justice Hill's kind of breakout year to a certain degree. So, we saw some very good things out of Todd Monken. So I'll be curious to see what Doyle says. And kind of if he, I'm hoping he has an introductory press conference because I really want to hear what he says. And I'm sure they'll do some sort of interviews with him, even if he doesn't have a true official press conference. But I'll be interested to see kind of what his focuses are, right? What he wants to do, because EDC has talked about wanting some kind of big ticket items, which has been out of the ordinary, right, for Baltimore Ravens fans. And I think to see that happen, it would be very interesting. Now, shout out to Ravens News Daily on IG. I saw them put out a little bit of a teaser that maybe Khalil Mack might want to come with him, which would be interesting, right? Khalil Mack, I think is what, 34. So that would be an interesting one. That would be a big name, but also that would kind of be a similar Ravens move. I think, it'd be similar for the Ravens to bring in an older guy, who probably can still be productive. But also, like we talked about before, Jesse meant to crack the code on Adafe Owe. If he could do that, then I mean, we could see even more from Khalil Mack and maybe a Kyle Van Noy if he does come back, and Tavius Robinson and all those guys too, Mike Green, right? I think a Khalil Mack could be honestly a really good move for the Baltimore Ravens, especially because of the amount of talent they have on the defense and who is now the head coach. So back to this hiring of Declan Doyle. So I already said, I like the idea of the promotional lateral move, right? I like the idea that Declan Doyle more than likely wants to call plays, right? He wants to be an even more hands-on part of the offensive play calling system, right? I think that's good. I think the ability to work with Lamar Jackson, I think is going to be a lot of fun for him too, because Lamar Jackson is kind of one-on-one. So if you can, and here's the thing too, like it's going to build credit for him. For as much as I disagree with the idea that the Ravens need a unique offense, right? For the amount that I disagree with that, to work with Lamar Jackson, who is kind of a one-on-one type quarterback, that kind of shows like, hey, I can work with Caleb Williams, who can do, these crazy off-script plays. I can work with Lamar Jackson, who can, who probably can do, I'm not even gonna say can probably, who can do those plays and even better, right? I've worked with guys who've been veterans in this league. I've worked with guys who've been, second year players in this league, young players in this league. So, it's gonna be very interesting to see kind of how this plays out. And I'm kind of excited. I also like this too, because I think, and it's just my opinion, but I think that this creates a potential low turnover rate. Because, when you talk about wanting to win championships, you talk about wanting to be a dynasty. I've thrown that word around on this show from time to time, but you talk about wanting to be a dynasty, you talk about wanting to win multiple championships. One of the things that I think you need for that is a lack of turnover, right? A lack of turnover. I mean, even if you look at the Chiefs, for example, right? Andy Reid was probably the main guy calling the plays, but Eric Bieniemy had his hand in a lot of things, and Eric Bieniemy stuck around for a while to kind of build up his sweat equity a little bit in the league. So, and of course he's back now, which is ironic, but still, like, it's kind of interesting, right? Like, I think having a guy who's only 29, another aspect of that is, you kind of get to watch him grow up as an offensive coordinator. You get to watch him grow up as a play caller, and he might already have the knowledge already. I have full confidence right now in Jesse Minter, but I think that Doyle probably has the mind for the game already. But of course, like, I don't necessarily see guys taking chances on guys that are 29, right? Especially as their head coaches. So I think it honestly, hiring a guy that young gives him a chance to grow, gives the Ravens a chance to create a turnaround fast. Because what you don't want to rebuild, like, you don't want to completely blow everything up and have to rebuild. But at the same time, if you are going to rebuild in some form or fashion, which of course you have to do when you fire a head coach and you fire coordinators and other position coaches along with that, you don't want the rebuild to be too long, right? Like I said this in a few shows ago, when John Harbaugh was fired, right? In that show, I was kind of mentioning, I was like, hey, like next year could be a wash, right? Not because the Ravens won't be good, not because the Ravens won't make the playoffs, not because the Ravens won't even make it far in the playoffs. More so, that's just how first year head coaches work, right? You'll have a very successful year, but you'll always feel like you're a year ahead of schedule. But to watch what the Broncos did, to watch what Mike Vrabel has done. Now, Mike Vrabel, first year head coach, but not a first year head coach, like period, right? Like, I mean, obviously he coached with the Titans. But still, first year head coach with a new team. That realistically, that core wasn't really, I mean, the core was intact, but um, there was a lot of question marks on that team with Jerome Mayo at the helm. So I, I don't know, y'all. Like I think I'm getting more confident. I don't want to get too confident because I don't want to get ahead of myself. But I'm getting more confident in the ideas of what Jesse Minter is putting out there that next year may not be a wash. And when I say a wash, I'm not saying that I don't think the Ravens could win a Super Bowl next year. When I say a wash, I'm basing it off of historically first year head coaches, especially first year head coach period, to win a Super Bowl. I mean, it's hard to do. I think there's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 guys who've done that before in the league. That doesn't mean that Jesse Minter can't. That doesn't mean that Jesse Minter won't. And that doesn't mean this team is built. It doesn't mean this team is not built for those type of things. I think this team is built very well. But I think I don't know if I necessarily feel as confidently in my previous claim that next year might be a wash. Next year might be far better than we could ever expect it because we've seen 1 year turnarounds before. And here's the thing, and I saw my guy Brandon got a comment. I'm gonna get to it real quick, but the thing about it is, think about the turnaround that Ben Johnson had with the Bears, right? I mean, and let me know if I'm wrong, but Ben Johnson in year 1 took the Bears from middle of the pack team to one of the best teams in the NFC. Not only at times being the number 1 seed and times performing, but also you can see it. You can see it on the field. They passed the eye test. They were one of the best teams in the NFC. But with youth, kind of like we talked about before, new head coach, all those things combined, right? Completely overhauling that entire system. They kind of were a year ahead of schedule. I don't think the Ravens are. I mean, I might give that some thought and really do, really talk about that in its own show. But I don't really think that the Ravens are like that. I think the Ravens are ready to win a Super Bowl yesterday, right? Like we talked about this before. The Ravens are ready to win a Super Bowl yesterday, especially if they fix the things that we've all seen that are obvious holes. If they fix the things that are complete and utter issues, then I think the Ravens are good. I think the Ravens have a good team. I think the Ravens have a good core. They have crucial pieces in the right places. So I think that's another thing too. I may be honestly wrong in my own claim. Way too early to tell, but wrong in my own claim that the Ravens may be kind of good next year, but next year may be a wash. It's possible that the Ravens go very far next year and have a lot of potential next year because, from a coaching perspective, they could be a year ahead of schedule, but from a talent perspective, they could be right on time. Does that make sense? So that's just how I'm feeling. That's just how I'm feeling. So Brandon said, I think we're building a dynamic staff. Not long on experience, but different abilities. Yeah, I think so too. And I think that's where like my thought about next season possibly being a wash, like I think that's why I was kind of leaning that way because you're going to go through an entire overhaul. Then you bring in this young defensive mind who has never been a head coach before. That doesn't mean that, it's not there for him, but or what hasn't, opportunities weren't there, but he's a young defensive mind. It just makes you wonder. It just makes you wonder because I'm trying to think because in the conference championship round, there were 2 defensive minded coaches and there were 2 offensive minded coaches. You had let me see if I can get this right. Sean McVay, Sean McVay for the offensive side. You had Sean Payton on All right, clean up for two Sean's too. Sean Payton on the on the AFC side, and then for defensive minded head coaches, you had Mike Vrabel and you had Mike McDonald, right? And it's kind of interesting, right? That's kind of interesting, and also I just don't know if there's a lot of teams that are in the position that the Ravens are right now, talent wise, from a talent perspective. Um, as I think about it in real time, like even when you think about the Seahawks, you don't have that elite quarterback when Mike McDonald takes over. So that's that, right? When you think about even when Sean McVay took over as head coach for the Rams, I think they went to the Super Bowl in what, year 2 for Jared Goff? Or, I mean, not for Jared Goff, but year 2 for Sean McVay. And I mean, you're talking about a young quarterback at that time. So I think veteran leadership, I think, is also good. You got veteran leaders on the defense, you got veteran leaders on the offense, and veteran superstar players too. I mean, honestly, I'm gonna have to give that some thought. I really am. I'm gonna have to give that some thought and come back to y'all and really dive into that, because I think that's a really good conversation to have about whether next year could be the year that the Ravens get over the hump, or and that would be probably history making within itself too. So we'll see. Let me make sure I answer this though. So once again, Brandon said, I think we're building the dynamic staff. And that's a good thing too. Like, I think even when you think about some of these younger guys getting head coaching jobs, right? So you think about Mike McDonald. Yeah, Mike McDonald was pretty young when he got his job with the Dolphins. Kyle Shanahan, same thing. Sean McVay, same thing, right? So a lot of the offensive minds tend to be pretty young anyway. And I think the good part about that, is we're gonna really watch these guys grow in real time, right? I mean, in the places where you truly need complete and utter excellence, I mean, you have the veterans there, right? I think even for Declan Doyle, I wouldn't be surprised if I don't know if T Martin's going to stick around, and I think Hendo and them are talking about that, but I don't know if T Martin's going to necessarily stick around. I would love to see him stick around because of the relationship that he has, not only with Lamar Jackson but with this offense. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a veteran in the room for this team when it comes to offensive coaching. To just be the veteran voice in the room for Declan Doyle as he continues to develop, right? I wouldn't be surprised by that, right? Because we even saw with Zach Orr, they brought in Chuck Pagano, right? They brought in Chuck Pagano to kind of be the veteran in the room in that case, right? So for a guy who hasn't really called plays before. Now, like I said, I think it also depends on who you learn under, and if you're really ready. And like I said, I love this move. I think this, I may be putting too much on this move, but I like the idea of this move. And another thing too, and I'm gonna get up out of here, but another thing too is when you hire Ledford for your offensive line coach who's seen success in this league. I mean, this might be what we're talking about. I might have just answered my own freaking question. Ledford's been around, right? Ledford's been around, has success pretty much everywhere he's went, right? And when you look at Dwayne Ledford, and especially when you look at his previous job with the Atlanta Falcons and how good they were, and where they ranked in certain places, he might be that guy who, how do I put this? He might be that veteran in the room, right? He might be that veteran in the room. So honestly, and he's a veteran in the room in a place where you need it the most. When it comes to the run game, when it comes to the offensive line, those are, and run game aside, we know the run game is fine, but offensive line wise, that's where the Ravens need their biggest rebuild, right? That's what the Ravens need to make their biggest changes. So I don't know. I'm liking it more and more. I'm liking it more and more. And like I said, I'm gonna have to look into that, and we're gonna have to talk about that again. I think we're gonna talk about that in a later show. So I don't want to get too much off topic, but I think we're gonna have to talk about that. That's gonna be very exciting. Also, more things to talk about this week. The whole Justin Metabike, a potential update there. He's back out on IG, giving us some positive vibes. So there might be something there. I mean, if we can get him, look, listen. I don't want to get too excited. I mean, it's just the start of the offseason. They ain't even played the Super Bowl yet. There's not even been a championship, a champion crown, and I'm already ready for September. Okay, I'm already ready for the 21st night of September. Never mind. Look, I'm already ready, y'all. Okay, look, I'm excited. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm excited. It's an exciting offseason. It's been a while since the Ravens have done this. And we've kind of been, as fans, been able to be so involved in it. So I mean, this is fun. Look, this is fun. I think the moves that Jesse Minter is making right now are big, and maybe I'll do something where I kind of sit down and really look into the moves as well and see how they fit with this piece. Because if they can, I'm telling y'all, like I just feel like the Ravens got the core right now, and if the Ravens can, I think if the Ravens can truly build this offensive line. Right, if they can build this offensive line, I honestly, like I said, I think Ronnie's fine. I think Linderbaum's fine, right? I think Fowler is the biggest issue, right? Like, but I mean, even both of those guards, if they can, get a veteran on one side or the other, like I said, I think the tackles are fine. I think the tackles in the center, I think is fine, but I think the guards are the problem, and I think they make everybody else look bad. But they change that out. Especially if they, maybe you get a first rounder. I know it's not the mock way, but maybe you get a first rounder at one of the guards, and then you get a veteran at the other guard. I'm telling you, I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, now, obviously a lot of people probably want a pass rusher. I'd rather get a proven pass rusher. That's just me. I'm tired of taking the chances on the rookies. We'll talk about that a little bit later too. But look, y'all, I gotta get up out of here. Definitely hope you guys enjoyed the show. I appreciate my live viewers for hanging out with us for the show. But look, man, I'm excited. I like what Jesse Minter's doing. I like, I kind of like where his head's at. Right, I like where his head's at. He's hiring these young guys, and if you trust what? If you trust Jesse Minter, right? If you trust Jesse Minter, then I think the staff that he creates is obviously guys that he trusts. So that's also a good thing. Obviously he's gonna have a say in the staff. He may not have like the last word, but he'll have a say in the staff. Because I don't remember if he's fully in charge of those guys. But look, y'all, look, I gotta get up out of here. Look, Brandon, I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I promise you, it's gonna happen. I'm not just pulling your leg either. It's going to happen. 86 Ghost, Brandon, B2 will be on the show. It's gonna happen. I'm marking my words. I'm gonna make sure I put it in the agenda so it can happen. But look, y'all, I definitely appreciate y'all for hanging out with us during this show. Had a lot of fun. What do y'all think? Let me know down below. I gotta know what y'all think about this Declan Doyle hire. Honestly, for a guy who I felt like, and maybe this is me, maybe I'm naive, but for a guy who felt like was kind of a relative unknown, from the comments that I've seen, right? I haven't seen videos yet, but I have, I've kind of peeked into the comment section. Everybody seems excited, right? Everybody seems excited. Everybody seems like, hey, like fresh faces. We like this. So I'm excited. I'm excited. It's going to be very, very exciting. Appreciate y'all for coming by as usual. Real quick, let me shout out to the live chat. At least y'all that hung out with us and commented. Marie, appreciate you as always. Again, Christopher, appreciate you. DFHC, the man, appreciate you as well. Of course, 86 Ghost. 86 Ghost. Yolanda B was hanging out with us as well. Look, if you need more Ravens content, and you need it right now, Yolanda B and Hendo, they live right now, so be sure to go check them out as well. If they're not live and you watch this later on, look, if they're not live and you heard it, and you hearing this later on, be sure to check their show out anyway. So check out their most recent show. But look, y'all, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're on the road to 100. Look, I'm going with it. We on the road to 100. Okay, we're on the road to her great stuff about TV before. Okay, see, that's what I'm telling y'all. See, like, I mean, I'm excited. Look, I'm excited. But look, we're on the road to 100. Okay, we're on the road to 100. We're on the road to 100. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna call it. Y'all can call it whatever y'all want to. We're on the road to 100 subscribers. We gonna build this thing, and we gonna have these conversations. We gonna talk. Look, we gotta get up out of here though. We always gonna have fun. I'll see y'all guys on the next episode of the Be More Show. Until next time, my friends.